Hey everyone, Random595 here. You've asked for it, so here is a guide for Rogue. Rogue is one of my favorite classes. It's pretty hard to learn, but incredibly powerful when used to its full potential. In this guide, I'll cover Rogue's strengths and weaknesses, talents, recommended build path, and general playstyle. Rogue's main strengths are battlefield control, utility, and crowd control. You get to decide when and how to engage enemies, limit enemy actions, and control aggro, which is incredibly powerful. Rogues thrive by only taking battles on their own terms. However, Rogue has two main weaknesses: limited direct damage and lack of AoE. To mitigate this, Rogues need to play defensively, leverage the utility of all their talents, and prioritize finding a free action talent, something with knockback, stun, or like a dual stability. Rogue abilities are some of the game's most versatile, with tons and tons of creative applications. Unlike my usual tutorials where I play a full game, I'll break down each talent and how to use it effectively. Let's start with Sleep Bomb. Sleep Bomb is the Rogue's basic ability, and it is hands down the best ability in the entire game. While it might feel underwhelming at first, simply delaying a single enemy or setting up a crit, it has so many different applications. I'll cover 3 of the core mechanics and then 6 additional tactics. The first core mechanic we'll cover is blocking line of sight. This is particularly important for rogues early on, as they don't have a way to really burst down ranged enemies. What you can do instead is, instead of sleeping it and getting a single critical hit, you can place the sleep bomb in front of yourself. The enemy is unable to shoot you, and you can get 2 free attacks off, and then a 3rd attack before they can shoot you. This will let you handle early ranged enemies, and if you combine it with unstable terrain, you'll pretty much be able to take out all healers, mages, archers, etc. before they can get any damage on you. The second core mechanic we'll cover is double crits. The way this works is when an enemy is unstable, you get a critical hit. When an enemy is asleep, you also get a critical hit. If you sleep an unstable enemy, you get a double critical hit. So you can use that to take out annoying enemies and just get additional damage. The third and by far most powerful core mechanic for Sleep Bomb, the reason it's so OP, is Permasleep. The way Permasleep works is if you upgrade Sleeping Bomb to the long upgrade, your duration equals your cooldown, or if you have AP, it even exceeds it. What this means is that you can permanently sleep a single enemy and they cannot take any actions before your sleep bomb is off cooldown. If you have no AP, it will wake up the turn that it goes off cooldown, the same effect. And this means that you can completely prevent them from doing anything. If you combine this with any source of knockback, you can wait for your sleep bomb cooldown, you can knock back the enemy, put them to sleep. This also works with any stun or free action, and you can repeat this as much as you want. And therefore even enemies with really annoying abilities like Expandurious become completely free, and this also works on Yenda. So this is the real reason that Sleep Bomb is one of the most powerful talents in the game. Sleep Bomb also has a wide range of additional tactics. One thing you can use Sleep Bomb for is to block cloud attacks. If there is a Sleep Bomb in the way of a cloud attack, it will prevent the cloud attack from reaching you. This gives you free turns to take out enemies like swamp fungoids or fire wizards, and also works on turrets. You have to watch out for the cooldown and then replace to block their attack, and then you can eliminate them for free. Additionally, Sleep Bomb removes line of sight effects such as Charm, Discord, or Curse of Torment. When the enemy uses the effect, if you block their vision, the effect is immediately removed. Sleep Bomb can also be used to prevent line of sight attacks. For example, if an enemy Storm Mage tries to lightning strike you, and if you can't reach them with your Sleep Bomb, you can still remove their vision of the cell they're targeting, and it will cancel the attack. This also works for things like Smite, but be careful, I believe Firestorm is not line of sight related. Sleep Bomb can also remove enemy effects such as Constrict. If if you sleep an enemy that is constricting you, it will break the constrict, allowing you to retreat and not get absolutely destroyed, which is very useful. Sleep Bomb can also be used to remove berserk effects. You sleep a berserk enemy and then wake them up, they will no longer be berserk. This may not be that useful in a standard game, but definitely in ranked, this can be extremely useful when berserk is making enemy tanks move 2 or 3 tiles per turn. Another tactic with Sleep Bomb is if you have perfect aim, either from range mastery or a perfect aim weapon, you can block a corridor using permasleep Sleep Bomb and then shoot enemies over the top, keeping this enemy permanently asleep and killing every enemy in the corridor. Sleep Bomb can also be used to remove cloud attacks. If you have an expanding cloud from enemies such as ice elementals or an expanding poison cloud, you can use Sleep Bomb to remove the cloud effect, deleting it and preventing it from causing you issues. It will also prevent the cloud from expanding through that direction if you don't get it immediately. These are just some of the possible tactics that Sleep Bomb can be used to perform. There's many others, such as blocking vision to prevent aggro, using Sleep Bomb to draw specific aggro, and just tons and tons of other utility you can get from this talent. The core tactics to remember are you can block line of sight early game, you can get double crits, and most importantly, permasleep. Moving on to Bear Trap. Bear Trap is Rogue's primary early game damage tool, excellent for controlling the battlefield and taking out enemies safely. The way Bear Trap works is you can place a trap, and any enemy that steps in the trap will be immobilized for 4 turns, and the trap resets after 5 turns. What you can do is you can use this to prevent enemies from chasing after you, to control where they can move. Also, while they're immobilized, they receive critical hits from all attacks, giving you greatly increased damage output. What you can do with Bear Traps is you can block corridors, and when combined with Sleep Bomb or upgrade a Bear Trap for 2 traps, really control enemies from reaching you. When upgrading Bear Trap, I highly recommend taking Bear Trap Double. Reason for this is the lower cooldown gives you even more battlefield control as you can place additional traps as you retreat. This works better for bad situations or when you need to prevent large groups of enemies from reaching you. I prefer this over Bear Trap Damage, as while Bear Trap Damage works better if you are more prepared. In the early game, I think the lower cooldown is much more effective. Another tactic with Bear Trap is you can place your Bear Traps in advance and wait for the cooldown. If this was a glyph gate, you could open the glyph gate, run away, wait for enemies to get trapped, and then immediately place a 3rd Bear Trap. Tactics like these allow Rogue to control the battlefield and really restrict what enemies reach them, and get huge additional damage by getting all the critical hits. You need to walk over one of your Bear Traps. You either move them like this, or you can trigger the Bear Trap by shooting it, and then you can step over it safely. Bear Trap has a number of setups that I like to call kill setups. The way they work is you use terrain to repeatedly trap enemies in Bear Traps without letting them hit you. The way it works is you get a circular piece of terrain and you stand like this and move back and forth, and then you can kill any kind of enemy regardless of what kind of effects it has. This guy has reflection, doesn't matter, we don't need to shoot him, we can just take him out with Bear Trap. If you make a mistake, you can just use a few speed points to move them back. For melee enemies, all this requires is a 1x1 piece of terrain. The enemies like to move up and down on these 2 tiles, so no matter where you trap them, they'll eventually move to these 2 tiles, and you can use this to take out melee enemies. Against ranged enemies, you're unable to use 1x1 terrain as they will kite further out, and you can't use low terrain as they'll just shoot you over the top. Instead, any circular terrain will let you use similar kill tactics on a ranged enemy. It does take a little bit more finesse as they can try and avoid the Bear Traps, but with the right placement, you will repeatedly trap them and there's not much they can do to you. There is one more type of kill setup that you can use Bear Traps for. What you can do is you can place a Bear Trap in the water, then aggro the eel, either through Sleeping Bomb or standing close enough, and run away. The eels will then aggro and come down and match your movement. If you move back and forth like this, the eels will also move back and forth and will eventually be killed by the Bear Traps. This also works in Arcane Tower using teleport portals and is a very effective way to remove pesky eels. Trapping melee enemies in bear traps is quite simple as they take the most direct path to the player, but trapping ranged enemies can be quite tricky. There are a number of tactics you can use to guarantee that you trap them. One tactic is to use corridors where there's only one path to reach you. Another is the straight line rule. This archer has 5 range, and if it's in a straight line with the player, it will continue to step forward in a straight line until it's in range. As such, you can easily trap the enemy. If you are offset from a ranged enemy, they like to circle around instead of approaching in a straight line. They tend to aim for 3 tiles offset, but it does depend on their range. So it takes a bit of practice, but you can learn how to trap enemies that aren't in a straight line. Another tactic you can use to trap ranged enemies is the maximum distance tactic. So if I'm standing here, it goes around because it's trying to circle around, so it takes a wide path to get to me. However, if I am far enough away from the ranged enemy, it will take a direct path to try and reach me, walking through the trap. You can also judge that if they're going to swing round wide, it has to go to this cell here, so I can place the bear trap and get a free hit like this. Additionally, enemies have certain tactics they use when going through corridors. When a ranged enemy goes through a corridor, it will step to the furthest cell where it is still in range of the player. So if I'm within 5 tiles, it's going to step here and get hit. Because this tile is out of range, it is now going to step straight, try and still be in range to hit me. There is an exception to the rule of enemies stepping to the furthest tile that's still in range, and that is if they are blocking a corridor for their allies. There is a specific interaction in the code where if an enemy is blocking a corridor, and it will step out of the corridor to the tile closest to the player. So just remember that if you're trying to trap a ranged enemy expecting it to step here, if there's other enemies in the corridor, it may step closer to you. If I kill this guy, this archer will step down here. So you can start to learn how the enemies act to predict their movements and ensure you can trap them in your bear traps. Bear traps can be used to stop charging enemies, and they also have a really nice effect of destroying enemy skelly bodies. So if you struggle with floors where the skeleton liches permanently raise skellies from the dead, if you use your bear traps to kill them, that will prevent that from happening. So that is bear trap for rogue. Remember to place your bear traps before the fight, getting your bear trap off cooldown if it's a large fight. To kite enemies into your bear traps, get large amounts of damage with your critical hits, and use them to control the battlefield and prevent enemies from reaching you. Next up, let's talk about Shadow Step, the ultimate utility talent. I call it a utility talent because it doesn't win the game by itself. What it does, however, is make it incredibly hard for you to lose the game. It has 2 main effects. It drops aggro, and it allows you to blink. Blinking is great because it's free movement, it allows you to move multiple tiles, it breaks constricts, and it isn't limited by speed points or prevented by slows, and can also be used on liquids. However, as great as blinking is, the strongest aspect of Shadow Step is dropping aggro. If you ever have an enemy start a fight, be it through an ambush, a drop wall, a glyph gate, or you just started a fight which you don't want, or even roaming enemies, whatever it is, you can end the fight instantly with Shadow Step, some speed points, and maybe a little bit of stealth. What Shadow Step allows you to do is reset any fight, no matter the state. It allows you to assassinate one enemy, say the Necromancer, and then run away. It means if you somehow happen to get cornered, you can just Shadow Step over the enemies and sprint in the other direction. Shadow Step is also completely broken in Vault of Yenda. On all the floors where there's drop walls that constantly aggro enemies, or where there's 4 groups of enemies, 1 on each side, you can just completely nullify the difficulty by Shadow Stepping, dropping aggro of everything, and then choosing to engage how you want. Shadow Step also lets you drop aggro after opening a glyph gate, or even more importantly these days, it drops the aggro of Yenda. So instead of having to fight Yenda and all his minions at the same time, you can simply Shadow Step and then take the minions out at your leisure. Shadow Step has 2 upgrades, Hidden and Fast. I definitely recommend Fast, as I found a 10 turn cooldown is much more effective than being invisible for 5 turns. There's 2 reasons for this. The first is that with Fast you can use it more aggressively as you get it back faster, and the second is sometimes Shadow Step can fail. You have to watch out when you drop aggro, as if enemies take damage, be it from poison, discord, dangerous terrains, clouds, delayed attacks like tornadoes or bombs, or even if you've sleep bombed an enemy, that will cause aggro. So if you make a mistake when you use Shadow Step and everything re-aggroes, Fast is better, as there's only 10 turns until you can drop all aggro again. Additionally, Hidden keeps you invisible for 5 turns. I found that a combination of Speed Point and Stealth will do the exact same thing. So for these reasons, I highly recommend Shadow Step Fast. Shadow Step Fast does feel significantly more powerful than Shadow Step Base, so it definitely is worth it just for that 10 turn cooldown reduction. Particularly in the Vault of Yender, it will guarantee you can drop aggro whenever you want, and it really does help if you're relying on that aggro drop and you make a mistake that you can get it back in just 10 more turns. Shadow Step combines really well with Sneak Attack as well, as when you drop aggro, Sneak Attack will allow you to deal critical hits to the unaware enemies. You can use this for offense. How you use Shadow Step is really up to you. You can use it offensively, you can use it to disengage, you can use it to assassinate enemies one by one, or you can use it to skip past enemies and not fight them at all. It's all about having complete battlefield control, choosing to engage when and how you want. If a fight goes poorly, you can flee from the fight for free, you can reset all your cooldowns, get your speed points back, your MP back, heal if you need to, do whatever, and then choose to engage how you want with the battlefield prepared in advance. All of this is why Shadow Step is just the ultimate utility talent. If you're playing carefully, it makes it incredibly hard to lose the game. It won't win by itself, which is why you need to combine it with other abilities, but it is still the ultimate utility ability. Alright, let's discuss the passives. I kind of already covered Sneak Attack in that it combines really well with Shadow Step. Personally, I don't generally take Sneak Attack, as I find the talent points are more useful elsewhere, but it can be used particularly if you prefer a more aggressive build. Evasive is another talent that Rogue has, and it's also one that I don't really use. I find with all the control you have, you shouldn't really be taking that many hits, and also you generally don't have so much HP, testing aside, so evasion isn't really that valuable. The second tier upgrade that gives you additional dex can be nice to reach your Shadow Step requirements, and if you do have a bunch of evasion items, stacking more evasion can be quite powerful. However, specifically for Rogue and in a basic build, I would not recommend evasive. Stealth Mastery, on the other hand, is incredibly powerful. Even 1 or 2 stealth is absolutely massive. Stealth Mastery does have the negative that you can't turn that stealth off, unlike with a stealth item that you can remove. However, it combines really well with Shadow Step and also your controlling the battlefield. So a lot of people don't like Stealth Mastery, as they say, how does it help me kill stuff? Well, the way Stealth Mastery helps you kill stuff is it lets you identify where the enemies are before the fight begins, and then you can prepare the battlefield with bear traps or look at the terrain. You can look around at roaming enemies, take them out. You can see if there's a second group of enemies behind the first group. You can choose how to engage. So, for example, take Orc Fortress. Let's say there's 2 Berserkers and an Ice Shaman. If you just engage from the front, the Berserkers are going to get ice shielded and be incredibly hard to kill. With Stealth Mastery, you can see the Ice Shaman, choose to circle around them, kill the Shaman first, and then the fight becomes simple. So, Stealth Mastery isn't about avoiding fights, it's about choosing when and how to fight on your own terms. It can be used to avoid fights, but it doesn't need to be. And even 1 point of Stealth Mastery I found makes it much easier to see enemies before they see you, and 2 or more points and you start to feel almost invisible and like you have complete control over the game. It does lose a bit of value in the Yender fight, as you have to fight Yender, but it still is actually fairly handy for managing the minions, and in the Vault of Yender it is incredibly powerful. There are a number of floors where the enemies see you immediately when you're on the stairs, but having even 1 stealth means they no longer see you, which lets you choose which side to engage and when. You could just come down the stairs with 0 speed points, you could rest all the way back up to full, scout each side, and then choose how to engage. So Stealth Mastery still has a lot of value in the late game, and it is incredibly powerful through the whole game. If I get a stealth item, it's almost an instant enchant, because the more stealth that you have, the stronger it is. Alright, let's discuss the standard build path for a rogue. You start with Sleep Bomb level 1, and the first thing you should do is try and get Bear Trap. This gives you a damage talent, another way to damage enemies, and makes your kiting more effective. It's also useful against fast enemies, and it's going to be your primary talent and your primary damage for the early game. I also recommend getting Bear Trap double as soon as possible, as having 2 Bear Traps on a 6-turn cooldown is more than double the power of 1 Bear Trap. It really helps in the second zone, so that is the where I put my first 2 talent points. Next, what you want is Shadow Step. However, you probably will not have the dex to get Shadow Step, but as soon as you have 14 dex, Shadow Step is the talent you want to get. If you do not have the dex to get Shadow Step, take Sleep Bomb Long, as being able to perma-sleep an enemy, and again the reduced cooldown is incredibly powerful. And then by then, hopefully you can hold a talent point for a level or 2, and get your Shadow Step to allow you to reset any fight. After this, again, Shadow Step Fast is the preferred upgrade, but it can take quite a while to get there. So in the meantime, what you're looking for is a free action ability. What I mean by free action ability is a knockback, a stun, or a duelist ability that doesn't take a turn. The ideal free action ability is Power Shot. It combines incredibly well with the rogue build, and also you're going to naturally be stacking dex, so your bow weapons will be more powerful. However, you can also use any melee ability, Charge, Power Strike, Cyclone Strike. You can use duelist abilities like Disengage, Lunge, Dash Attack, or you can even use a spell like Cone of Cold or Fireball Knockback. It's whatever is available, and don't forget that Storm Shot level 2 also has knockback. So a big goal of a rogue build is to fix the one gap in your talent kit, which is a direct damage ability that also has preferably one of these free action aspects. So Power Strike works, you can take Power Strike Stunning, you can take Power Strike Heavy, anything works, just having one makes a really big difference. If you don't find it, it's fine, you can still win the game with just Shadow Step and Bear Trap, it's just it will take more effort. Same way that a Ranger with Sleep Bomb is way more powerful, a Rogue with a knockback ability is also way more powerful. Hopefully you get that from your second zone talent book. Otherwise, you've got your third zone talent book or the third zone library, which should be something that you make a priority to go to. If you don't find it there, you still have your 2 side dungeons or the merchant or even a wish. If I did not have any knockback of any kind or stun, I would probably wish for a talent on Rogue to try and get it. Once you have this, if you can, still priority Shadow Step Fast, and then next I would take Stealth Mastery and then Stealth Mastery Upgrade. After all of that, if there was nothing else, I would take Sneak Attack and then spare points on Evasive, whatever. At this stage, it doesn't really matter. Additionally, another talent that you really want to find, if you can, is Precision. Precision is great because both Sleep Bomb, Bear Trap, and Sneak Attack all give you critical hits. Precision 20% extra damage really adds up when you're getting lots and lots of critical hits, and 40% from level 2 is amazing. If you combine something like Precision, Bear Trap, Sleep Bomb, and Power Shot critical damage, or Power Shot adjacent damage, whatever it's called these days, you can deal massive triple criticals that will kill almost any enemy in the game in one hit. The general playstyle of a rogue develops over the game. At the beginning, you'll be using Sleep Bomb a lot, kiting back, shooting enemies, trying to use your unstable terrain to get critical hits to take stuff out. When you unlock Bear Trap, you can add that to your kiting, to setting up the battlefield, to controlling the enemies, and use that to deal additional damage. When you find your damage ability, you start to change how you play the game, and you use your other abilities to set up that damage ability. You use Sleep Bomb and then Power Strike. You can either perma-sleep or use it for critical damage. You knock stuff into Bear Traps, or when you get Shadow Step, it becomes a lot like assassinating one enemy running away, getting your cooldowns back, and assassinating a second enemy. While it is possible to beat the game using just the Rogue's base kit, using the Rogue's kit as a force multiplier for a direct damage talent is where Rogue is truly powerful. Mastering Rogue is all about taking control of the battlefield. Sleep Bomb and Bear Trap gives you the ability to control your enemies, while Shadow Step keeps you agile and it can reset fights on demand. I hope these strategies help you and enable you to take every encounter on your own terms. Good luck out there, and if this guide helped, hit the subscribe button for more deep dive class tutorials. If you've got any questions or your own Rogue tips, leave a comment below, or you can find me on the Discord. If you would like to see a second part to this guide where I show these tactics in practice, then let me know and I'll see what I can do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and see you next time.